Hey everybody, Dr. Dave. We're making sauerkraut today. Why? Sauerkraut is one of the most medicinal foods you could possibly eat, especially when you're dealing with any sort of gut issue or any sort of brain issue like depression, anxiety. Anytime you feed your gut and heal your gut, that's going to have a direct effect on your brain as well. So when we're talking about probiotics, fermented food is so incredibly medicinal, and it contains a ton of probiotics. If you go to the store, you buy a 50 billion count probiotic, you're spending about $50, $55 a month if you're getting a good one. When we're talking about sauerkraut, 4 to 6 ounces of sauerkraut contains upwards of 10 trillion count bacteria. There's nothing better for it. It tastes great. You got to get used to it, but it tastes great, and it's a wonderful medicinal food. It's going to help you heal your gut. So here's what you need, guys. First of all, you need cabbage. I have 2 of them right here. Actually, about 1.5. This is a smaller one. These are organic. Guys, get organic, please. We are not fermenting pesticides. 1.5 organic cabbages. You need one of these. This is a Fido jar, F-I-D-O, on Amazon for about 10, 11 bucks. You want to get this. This is the best fermenting jar out there. There's no lead in the glass. If you go to Target, Walmart, whatever it is, chances are it's coming from China and it has lead in the glass. So this is one of these guys that's going to seal shut for us. It's going to keep oxygen out so our fermentation does not rot, and it's going to let the carbon dioxide out so we have a nice fermentation going on. The only other thing you need is this. This is pink Himalayan salt. You can get pickling salts and things like that, but this is going to be the best one. This is what I always use to do my fermentations. I got this at Costco. Nice big jug of pink Himalayan salt, high quality pink Himalayan salt. So that's what we're going to do. Guys, this is a super easy process. It takes a little bit of time to prepare it. It does take 4 weeks to ferment. So you're not going to be eating this today. You'll be eating it starting in 4 weeks, but the amount that we're making is going to last you a couple weeks at least. So let me show you how to make it. First thing we're going to do is chop up the cabbage into nice thin strips. Let's take a look at how we do that. Alright guys, so now we have 2 bowls of chopped up cabbage. What we need to do now is salt it. So the general rule is that you're going to do about 1 tablespoon of salt per head of cabbage. So we're looking at about 2 tablespoons of salt. And really what you want to do, since you're going to be eating it, is you want to salt it to your own taste, how it tastes well to you. You definitely want to get some salt in there. That's going to help the ferment happen. So I'm just going to split up 1 tablespoon between these 2 bowls, and we're going to start there. And what you're going to do here, once you have the salt in there, you need to really massage the salt into the cabbage. So you're not just mixing, you're trying to massage it and get it incorporated into that cabbage. And what we're going to do here is we're going to help the cabbage start sweating. The salt is going to start pulling out the water from the cabbage, and this is going to give us our brine. Now, the brine is the salt water that the cabbage is going to ferment in. That's perfect. It's a little salty. You want it to be salty. It's going to make for a good ferment. It's going to make it really flavorful when you eat it. You want to try to find that line, that fine line between salty, enjoyably salty, and too salty. You want to get right up to that border. That's perfect too. Okay, so we're set. All right, guys, so we have 2 heads of cabbage chopped up, salted. It got close, about 2 tablespoons of salt. They're going to sit here and sweat. You want to let them sweat for at least 3 hours. You can go 6, 8, or even 10 hours. but you want to let them get nice and wilted. You want to let the water get sucked out of the cabbage. It's going to make it a lot easier when we're trying to pack this into your phyto jar. So we'll come back in a few hours and make that happen. Okay, so we have all of our cabbage. It's wilted down. This is everything combined into one bowl. You can see it really has wilted down. It's sweated a lot and wilted down. We fit it into one bowl. So all we need to do now is to get this and as much of this into this jar as we possibly can. And so we're going to use a wooden spoon and basically just cram it in here and get it nice and tight and get a nice brine. The salt water, we want it covering the cabbage inside of this. Then we shut it up, lock it, and leave it that way for 4 weeks. So let's go ahead and do that. So here we have we still have some left over. We're not going to be able to use this. This tastes really good. You can just eat it as a salad, as is. We filled up this phyto jar. You want to get it up to about this level here. You want to leave some space, however, because there's going to be an active ferment happening in here. You're going to see some bubbling, and it's not uncommon for it to foam up and to actually foam through the rubber seal here and out. So you're going to want to make sure while it's sitting and fermenting, it's sitting in some type of bowl or pan to catch any overflow that might happen. Now what you're going to notice is you're going to get a brine. Now there's liquid in here. You can't really, I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's liquid in here. It's coming up to about right there. We want to make sure that brine, the salt water, is covering everything. So you're also going to have some leftover brine from the sweating, and usually this is going to be enough to cover up the cabbage. So that looks pretty good. Now you can really see it. You can see the brine in there. Just going to make sure that I pack it down. And by the way, this is definitely the hardest part about making sauerkraut, is it definitely takes some arm strength and some persistence to get all of that cabbage crammed into this jar. Now what we want to do also, if there's any little pieces hanging out here, you want to make sure that those are pushed down. Guys, make sure your hands are very, very clean when you're doing this. You don't want any extra random bacteria or foreign particles in there that could possibly cause it to rot. Also want to make sure that the cabbage is really staying underneath that brine. So I use a Ziploc bag. Other people have used a cabbage leaf on top, but I have found Ziploc bag filled partially with water is going to do the trick for us. Squeeze all the air out of it. So this is going to weigh it down. Stick this in here. It's a little bit too much water, so I'm going to empty some of that out. You still want to have some air space in there, but enough weight to try to push that cabbage down into the brine. And now when you look at it, you can see that brine is covering up the cabbage. Little space for air. We're going to close this. We're going to seal it. There you go. You got your sauerkraut day 1 already starting to ferment. All right, guys, so look, we have close to 1.5 heads of cabbage in here that's going to ferment. You're going to have the urge to open this guy up and see how it's doing through the fermentation process. I urge you to just keep it shut. Just keep it completely closed for the entire 4-week process. It's gonna turn a little yellow. It's gonna get clear and translucent. You might smell it. Sauerkraut has a very distinct sour smell to it. That's totally normal. If it turns brown, if it smells like a public bathroom, it's rotting and it went bad and you can toss it. Okay, if you walk into your house and your house reeks of public bathroom, that's because your sauerkraut rotted, something went wrong, you gotta try again. If you follow my instructions, it's gonna work. It's gonna work well. After the 4 weeks, open it up. It's gonna have a smell, very sour flavor to it. Make sure you put it in the fridge after 4 weeks. It can keep for a long time in the fridge, but you want to get it in the fridge. You don't want it to ferment any longer than that 4-week period. It's going to have the maximum amount of probiotics after 4 weeks. This is going to last you a very long time. So what I would recommend is every 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, I'll fill up this one. So I have this ready in 4 weeks. This will be ready in 6 weeks. And you just keep a cycle going. You always have some sauerkraut ready for you. And if you have gut problems, if you have brain, emotional disorders, this should be a part of your life on a daily basis. Okay, it's best to eat this more on an empty stomach. You do not want to cook it. If you cook it, you're killing off all the probiotics, all the beneficial stuff that you work so hard for. You're going to eat it raw, keep it cold. That way.